Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Dojo Talks. And today there's a lot of things on the table, but number one is how terrible are humans? I think we're learning that they are actually really, really bad at chess. They are really bad at chess. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about machine and odds. We're going to also talk about just the odds tradition in general. And so, as per introduction, I just want to say, back in the olden times, let's talk Morphe and stuff, there would commonly be odds. For example, imagine having pawn and move and you lose your f7 pawn. That was a common thing they did back in the day. And that tradition we lost, I would say, for the most part, but it kept on going and say go. In go, David can talk about that more later, but there's all kinds of ways in which you have handicapped, and that's an accepted part of the tradition.
Yeah.
In my experience as a chess player, I've been asked, just for fun to do odds, and it never felt like a good thing to me. There was a purity about the struggle that I didn't want to lose. So, for example, if someone takes away my f7 pawn, my chess brain says, well, that's a lost position. So that's not interesting to me, right? That was my take anyway. It was kind of the loss of a purity. And I think actually that purist conception ties in also with our discussions on Fisher random. Like David's totally fine with the randomness, and there's a kind of purist aspect about, at least the way I see chess, that disturbs it for me. So anyways, that's the backdrop of this odds thing. And the reason that we're talking about it in particular now is there's an odds bot on Leela, on Chess. I think chess.com probably has one too, where you can play the thing without a queen, without a knight, without a rook. And what is stunning to me is that GMs are losing. They're losing without a queen, man. They don't got a queen, and they're losing these games. Strong GMs. And the first one I heard about was my friend GM Jan Elvis, who used to be number 3 in the world. This is no chump. This man has played beautiful chess against me. He lost a 3-0 match without the queen. Now, I just want to say, way back in the day, there was a guy, he's still alive, I think, but I haven't heard from him in a while, named Roman Djindjiashvili, and he would play Hustlers in Washington Square Park. And back in the day when we did hustling, sometimes you would get an odds thing. I never enjoyed that, but he would give queen and like 5-1 against some chumps, and it was like this amazing thing to watch. But when I witnessed that, I was like, that's ridiculous. There's no way. There's no way you lose without a queen. There's no way you lose without a rook. Without a knight. I was just like, come on, give me a break. And I want to introduce this. We'll talk more about the results, okay? But I just want to point out, think about Hikaru, how good Hikaru is at blitz. So Hikaru plays with Leela not having a knight. To me, if I'm playing blitz against somebody and they lose a knight, it's kind of time to resign, dude. It's kind of time to resign. Leela beats him 14-2 without the knight. 14-2. 20-1 against Fabi. Dude, 20-1. Are you kidding me? 7-1 against Nepo. Oh, man.
So wait, we should clarify. We got this very cool list from our friend Grandmaster Larry Kaufman.
Yeah.
And he sent us this list of results from the Leela odds engine.
Right.
With Leela's results with giving knight odds, giving rook odds, to all these very, very famous names. By the way, I think there's some alt accounts on that list. I was just looking at that list and I was like, I'm not sure these are all public accounts. So
could be. Also, I want to stress, I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience with it, and I was playing queen odds 3-0. I'm going to say more about that for myself. But Naka, when he loses without the knight, he's playing a 3-2. So you got 2 seconds. And that's when it comes to time is one of the main reasons the machine is winning. It's not the only one, but that's one of the main reasons winning. So a lot of these results that I'm going to quote later too, it's not even just 3-0, it's a 3-2 situation.
Yeah, when I watched Naka play, he was facing the Leela with rook odds. I watched him play live at one point, and it was, I don't know if it was 3-0 or 3-2. It was pretty fast. And I think it was about even in terms of the score. So with the rook odds, he was scoring
3-2.
Maybe he was even doing a bit better.
Rook odds, he lost 9.5 to 4.5. 3-2. 9.5 to 4.5. Crushed him.
Maybe maybe I just watched the first part of the match when it was
Uh-huh.
like 2.5, 2.5, and then ended up being 9.5, 4.5. I don't know, but that's part of the thing I wanted to discuss because I played the thing a bunch of times and I had some thoughts on it. I don't know. Should we get into it?
Yeah, of course we're getting into it. That was just my introduction. We're talking more about the results, and I think big picture for me, it's like really interesting to talk about what it means. Because to me, I think
Right.
it's like one of those results that it's so interesting and surprising that it's like, wait a second, you have to change. Cry, you need to change your framework, bud. How you see what's going on in the game of chess.
I mean, Jesse, if I could respond a little bit to your intro, I feel like your intro reveals that you have almost no experience with odds chess. Is that fair to say?
I will say this. So this odds thing was like it was a very interesting result, and then I did it myself this morning to just kind of feel it out. Yeah, so that was my first experience with odds. Yeah,
Right. Yeah, because it sounds like your first feeling about odds was like, this doesn't make sense.
right.
Somebody's already losing. Why are they even playing from
Yeah.
this position? It's kind of distaste, and then you never really tried it. So, the historical reason for playing at handicaps or at odds is that when somebody's much better than someone else, the game could be boring if the skill gap is too big, right?
Right.
And the idea is you can make the game more interesting by having a handicap. So, have you ever played many games with people rated 1,000 points less than you?
The only time I've done that is with like time odds. And what's interesting about time odds is that fits my purist conception. So, like in terms of the
Right.
evaluation of the position, we
Hmm.
begin basically equal. It's just a huge
Right.
time thing going on.
But you haven't had occasion to play tons of people who are much worse than you.
Yeah, but like I said, I was this purist conception. I was like, don't, I can't. You to me to play without a knight or a rook, it just don't feel right. You know.
Okay. Because like I've played tons and tons and tons of games
Hmm.
against lower rated players. For example, when I was running a chess club, right?
Yeah.
You'd be sitting there, people would come in, and you'd offer to play chess with them, right?
Yeah.
Or as a chess teacher, you know, I would do like a public class, and then after the class, somebody might want to play a game against a master. Or when I was running a kids website, right? We would do shows online where the kids have a chance to play against the person who does the video lessons, right? And these games are very boring if you play normally, right? I've never been a fan of playing bad moves on purpose to make the game seem close
Right.
because I don't want them to learn bad moves from me. If I'm going to play them, I want them to learn good moves from me. And if you play with the same number of pieces as somebody rated, let's say 1,500 points lower rated than you, the game's not very interesting. Have you ever had that experience?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So the idea of odds to me, I understand it and it came very naturally. It makes those games much more interesting. Like you can give a total beginner all their pieces and you play with a king, a knight, and a bunch of pawns, right? And it becomes a challenge for them. Where you don't know if you're going to win or lose, and I think it's very good that way.
Okay.
You know?
I'll just add to that. I remember growing up, I would attend the classes of this coach, International Master Jack Peters. I'm sure you guys both know.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, he would often play kids with odds as well. And so I remember playing a couple of games with him at Queen odds. And I think it was even like a G30 game, like a 30-minute game, because I was
Uh-huh.
probably like the lowest rated player and everyone else had like someone, I was like no one else to play with. So I would play him. He would give me queen odds. I remember definitely losing some games with queen odds, but then I remember the first time I won with queen odds and that was great. And then the next time we played with rook odds. And
Yeah.
then I lost some games like that. And then I remember the first time like I won with rook odds.
Hmm.
And then I think I stopped attending the class at some point. But at some point we started playing for real, like, just like straight up, and it was actually a very good growth experience for me as a junior, I'd say.
Yeah. Sounds like a good experience. And at some point long ago, we would practice against computers sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Then a few years ago, or maybe 10 years ago by now, 15 years ago, at some point we just gave up, right? Like it wasn't interesting anymore. The
Yeah.
computer was too good. It wasn't interesting, not even to test, the opening that the best, blah, blah. It's just overwhelming. It's painful. It's impossible. Um, And I think actually this idea of playing the machines at odds, it's logical. That could create a good learning
I
level
guess.
or a good learning program
Uh-huh.
for us now. If we just, put some of that ego aside and again accepted that we were so much more terrible than we realized we were, as Jesse points out, just accept that and then have a learning experience, right?
I think there is some instructive material to take away from it. So yeah, so let's get into it. So we all played the queen odds, Leela, is that right?
David did it at a very slow time control, which I think is unfair. But yes, I did
I
the
played-
3-0. I played the match at 3-0.
I've played queen odds bot, rook odds bot, and knight odds bot the most.
Okay.
And at which time controls?
I think when I was playing the knight odds bot, which is what I played the most, like maybe 16 to 20 games, I think I was playing 5+3 or something like that.
Okay, and then like what was your score roughly?
I think a win, a draw, and 14 losses, something on that.
Dang.
Oh wow.
Right?
Dang.
Yeah, 5-3. Okay, but knight odds is very tough. So I mean, okay, so I only played queen odds, and then I played 12 games. I won 7-5. And then the games I lost, I mean, I felt like, I just like hung something, right? I just like completely like blundered my rook or something. So it wasn't like I didn't feel outplayed. I definitely felt outplayed, but not like I didn't feel like I lost. I think I lost maybe one game where I actually got outplayed. Like I got a difficult position and
Did
it
you
just
play 3+0 like Jesse?
yeah, I played
Or
3-0.
did you put a
Yeah.
couple seconds on it?
No, I did 3-0
Yeah.
because okay, just to have equal data.
Well, and I just want to stress the reason I did that experiment is because, so I asked, by the way, many thanks to GM Larry Kaufman, who's been doing a lot of these experiments. And one of the things he basically summarized was the chump GMs, like myself, are going about even with queen odds 3-0. And I was like, when I read that, I was like, really, boss? Really? And it's still unfathomable to me. Now, I do believe I could get better at this, but I just want to report that in my first match, I only was +1. And we played, I don't know, 7 or 8 games, or 7 to 9 games. And so that was stunning to me. Sometimes I would just be suddenly out of time, but also like, yeah, the thing didn't roll over. The thing didn't roll over. So like anytime I won, it was like I had to take all those pieces and then mate it. That was the only way I could win. It wasn't
Right.
like, I could just roll it over like you would normally with a human.
So that was interesting. Yeah, I definitely got that. I didn't even try, but I just knew like you're not gonna mate the thing. So it's just like you
Right.
just have to. My whole strategy going in, and if people want, maybe we could post some of the games. People are curious. Actually, people can see them. I played most of them on my public Lee Chess account. Hello,
Yeah,
Christia.
I
So
did
people
too,
can
yeah.
just
I did
can
too.
just see the games. But usually I just try to like trade pieces. I was very happy to give up an exchange, especially for like a knight, because then I felt like okay, then it gets a lot easier. And yeah, I feel like to me it felt more like it's an exercise in not blundering so much. Okay, playing against queen odds. I think I definitely got the feeling like if I played rook odds or knight odds that I would just have like no chance basically in 3-0. And I also saw like I think the time control really makes a huge difference because I feel like at faster time controls it's much better for the computer. And slower time controls presumably I think humans would do better.
Well, it makes no difference for the computer. It's that for you, it gets worse, right? When you're playing 3.
Yeah, I guess that's what I meant. Like for me, it gets worse, which means the computer will score better results. I guess.
Because as Larry pointed out, the computer just plays instantly no matter what the time control is. It needs no time, uses no time,
Yeah.
right? Like you could play it a classical game, and some people have, right, Jesse? There were some classical
Yeah,
matches
yeah.
or fast classical. The computer will still just play instantly. It's not like it sits there for half an hour, and gets deeper into the position.
Yeah. Okay, let me just say what I think the main takeaway for me is. We have known for years that the computer has an ELO rating above 3,000. Okay? Now, for humans, a rating over 3,000, it's kind of incomprehensible. It's kind of like when somebody talks about $1 trillion or something. Like, I don't
Well,
know.
classical rating.
A classical rating. So FIDE ELO, right?
Yeah.
So when somebody says something or a rating over 3,000, it's kind of like, I don't know, I guess.
I disagree. I feel like I could tell you what 3,000 means, but now aren't they like 3,500?
Well, so let me just tell you, Stockfish 17.1 right now has an ELO of 3644.
Yeah.
Okay?
So that, I have no idea what that means, Jesse, right?
Okay, right.
If you tell me 3,000, I'm like, oh, it's going to beat Magnus with white and draw with black, right?
But
so
also,
it's not a sense.
I feel like there's an important point here, and I think someone was saying this in the Discord, that like the computer ratings, they're not meant to like line up with FIDE ELO ratings. Like they're kind of using their own system.
Sure.
And someone was saying like it would have been better if the computer ratings were just like completely different. So it's not meant to be taken as like, oh, they're 800 points above Magnus. As far as this is, someone either on YouTube or on Discord, someone on the internet said that, but they were very convincing, and I think they're correct.
But how far above Magnus do you think they are? I think they're stratospherically above. I mean, if he played classical chess against a computer engine like this at no odds, I mean, wouldn't it basically win every game now?
I think that was partly maybe the point they're trying to make, is that if these computers were actually in our system, they could be above 4,000 or even higher, right? So it's
wow. So it'd be even more. Maybe.
We just don't really know, I guess.
But I mean, hold on. These computers, they play against humans to get their rating, and then they start playing against each other. Of course, it makes little sense for somebody rated 800 points above Magnus to be playing a human, but like, originally they got their rating by playing humans, and now they've developed on into their own stratosphere.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if anything, probably just a good invitation for people to let us know in the comments. And that's generally why I brought it up, because I was curious, because maybe.
Okay, but let me just say, if
this.
someone wants to argue with me that it's not 3644, it's actually 3800, or it's actually 3500, it's kind of, that to me is missing the point.
Right.
Okay. So
it's
let me
more
just.
than 200 points away. It's far enough away that it's hard to measure.
Right.
You couldn't really use a human to measure how good the computer is now, right?
Well, and let me just, here's some of the takeaways though that I want to just stress. So the point of the ELO system is that if you are a 400 point gap from somebody, like let's say you're rated 400 points below, you will score 1 point out of 10. Okay? This is 800 points above Magnus. So there's a lot of things that is breaking my mind when it comes to thinking like that. So like, it really does break my mind, because that means Magnus is basically winning nothing, not even drawing hardly anything. And so just think about Magnus playing white and how hard it would be to beat Magnus playing black. And basically we're saying here, no, the machine is going to crack him every time, almost every single time. Maybe at 800 points, I don't know, we'll run the math on that, but you might get a point every 30 games or something. It's a lot. So,
well, I think Magnus is definitely not winning any games, but he might be like drawing some games.
He might draw a game or two, but it's not at an 800 point gap. It's not going to be a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me just.
I mean, if the gap is 800, imagine yourself playing someone 800 points lower than you.
Right.
That can estimate, and that we've done and we've seen. And the fact is, other than losing your concentration, you would win every single game.
Right, dude.
And a computer never loses its concentration.
Right, dude. So, okay. So,
it's a big point.
One thing I want to one of the reasons it breaks my mind is my friend GM John Fedorowicz years ago, he was like, he had this very convincing thing. He was like, Jesse, once somebody's a professional player, they can always hold as white. And so that means that if you were white and you knew what you were doing, and you didn't play risky chess, you'd be able to hold the position. And what we're seeing here is, no, dude, not true. Not even close to true. Okay, so that's my first takeaway. My second takeaway is this changes the way it has to force you to change the way you think about the way chess is played amongst humans, because you'll oftentimes hear humans talking about how hard it is, that it's impossible to win certain positions, that opening theory has ruined the game, yada, yada. And it's like, no, boss, just think about the 800 point spread. That means you might not have the ability to win this position, but the machine, there is the ability. The ability exists. So it's like to say, you might have thought it was theoretically impossible to outplay an opponent in certain positions or something. And what this is saying is nobody.
Right.
No, you can outplay.
But okay, at a certain point, it is kind of like trying to, write Shakespeare by guessing at the words. Some of the moves by the engine are just so advanced and like we're not playing like that. We got no chance. I did pick up one thing from the engine in that it seems to be very powerful to castle queenside with a fianchettoed bishop on b2. It did that
loves
against
it,
me
dude.
in a
Yeah,
lot of
it loves
games.
that.
I guess because the queen on d1 is missing, right? So it's like a little faster. And yeah, I couldn't checkmate it. Like it was just very solid. So imagine with the queen, that setup must be very good.
Well, but I mean, let's just say, in broader speaking, I think we did a podcast called Jesse's Heresy recently, and I talked about my heresy was that I was saying you could play blitz and actually improve, but the main point of that for me as an experience was, after playing the blitz game, to look at some of the things the engine was saying. Stockfish 17.1, and it says amazing things. It's like mind-blowing things in terms of ideas and concepts, and you're like, oh my god, I would have never thought of that. And it's just showing what 3600 means. It's a whole nother level, friend. I think in my head, computers have been around forever. It's like, oh, they're better because they calculate better. Oh, they're better because they don't lose their concentration. But now at 3600, where they're crushing us like little fools, it's like, no, they're onto a whole deeper level of playing, my friend.
Well, this is where, okay, I feel like it's not so close with these results because I think it's not so obvious that it's like that. Because for me, I mostly just kind of like felt pressure with the 3-0. Like I felt like with a longer time control with some increment, I would be winning a lot more. It was basically just like the pressure of playing odds. I also knew like, okay, I'm playing on my public account. If I lose by a big score, that's embarrassing. So that kind of affected me a little bit. And I feel like it affects a lot of these players. I mean, maybe the more famous you are, the more it affects you in terms of when you play like a public match against one of these engines. Because yeah, I feel like humans over the board, like they also can lose like rook odds or something to a stronger player. And especially when you're playing OTB, it's not always because the other person's just playing so much better than you. It's more just because like one player gets nervous and like just blunders and they know they're winning from the get-goes, and it's just like the psychology of the situation. With the machine, of course, the machine, yeah, it just doesn't give a hoot how much material. Like it plays its moves this with the same level of confidence, whether it's mating you or it's about to get mated. The machine just keeps playing. So
it's also very clever. I don't know, and I think this is part we have to actually talk a little bit about Leela and the settings that GM Kaufman has set for a lot of these odds things, because it will one of the tricks you can do with it is, if you have the queen, you can threaten to trade. Like if you can trade your rook for a bishop, that's actually a great trade, and it won't take it because it knows that it needs to keep the tension in the position.
Yeah.
I felt like it could do that even more. I felt like there were some moments where if it knew who it was playing, it could just get away with a lot more like shenanigans. But it was like giving me too much respect, I felt.
But it's already programmed in that direction somewhat, right?
Yes.
Like they've raised this contempt factor, they've improved it to specifically sort of know who it's playing against and try and take advantage of our weakness, right?
Well, I don't know if it has like a profile on each of us.
No, but not specific on each of us, but sort of like the most typical human weaknesses. For example, it might choose not to win back in exchange at times because it knows that trade is actually simplifying and helping us, or something like that.
Yeah.
I've played a lot of odds on the other side, right? So I've very often been on the other side where I'm playing somebody at queen odds and I could win in exchange, and like I don't, right? I only want to take things for free, one pawn at a time. But like I can't give up any of my guys, And the computer does a similar thing in that regard, right? Where it's like definitely biased against trading. And even like avoiding positions and setups that are conducive to trading, right? So like, for example, it played against me like a hippo, right? E6, D6, B6, G6, bishops, knights, you know, tucked like that. Like Pavel Blotny used to play like that against me in tournaments.
Uh-huh.
And it would play like that, and it's like, oh yeah, which piece could I go trade? None, right? Like every piece is tucked away. I can't go trade anything. So the idea that it's been programmed to play with contempt is creates a very powerful system where it's not even always playing the best move, right? It's often playing a move where it knows that the right answer is so complicated that we won't play it.
Yeah, I definitely got the feeling that it's just playing very intuitively at moments and just kind of with just like an understanding of the game. Like one moment that sticks out to me is I was black, and it in every game it tried to close the position, advance its pawns a lot on the king side. It would go like
Yeah.
So in this game, it's like it has pawns on e4, f4, and g5.
Yeah, that's what
I
it loved
played-
to do to me too. Yeah, love that. Yeah.
And I played h6 to kind of challenge the g5 pawn. And then if it allows me to take, then my rook is opened up. If it takes, I get to develop my knight or whatever. And it just goes g6, like pawn sacrifice, fg. And then this position is kind of like, it was awkward to play. But then when it played rook g1, I just went g5 with the idea that if it goes f takes g5, I would go h5 to close things up, you know? So it's like two can play that game.
Ah, okay.
When you got an extra
playing
queen,
too.
boss, you should be able to find something.
I mean, okay, extra queen. It's like, you know, it's just one piece when you think about it. It's only one. I would rather play up two minor pieces against Lee. I didn't try, but I feel like that might be easier. I'm not sure though.
Well, let's talk about the piece for a second. So, let's say I'm playing 3-2, even 3-0. I feel like even let's just say 3-0 for a second. I'm playing some random person online, some random GM, and they lose the knight. Yes, some play on, but if it's just for absolutely nothing, generally, dude's gonna resign. And this is like, oh, I guess you don't have to resign. That was the old rule. And now Naka 3-2 gets crushed by the beast, dude, without the knight. 3-2. And I think the difference between 3-0 and 3-2 against the machine is monumental, because the machine really, it's unnerving because it moves instantly, right? So you don't even have time to process when you're playing 3-0. Usually when you play 3-0, you're going to have a little bit of processing speed while the opponent's thinking. This thing's just on you, right? But at 3-2, that's a lot of time, and you're not going to actually lose on time. But still Naka gets crushed, dude. Still. Oh, man. And Naka, dude, Naka's blitz skills are amazing. He's not hanging anything like I am. That guy's just boom, 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 and he's still getting
Yeah, and
crushed.
he's historically also like very good against the engine. If you guys have seen his like famous like 300, 400 move wins against like Ripka and Crafty on the old ICC, amazing. It's one of the greatest chess games I think of all time. Those games, because he would just like outplay the engine so beautifully. Anyone that hasn't seen those games, I'm sure they're on YouTube somewhere. But so yeah, he's no stranger to playing against computers. He's been doing it for many years.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think Jesse made a very interesting and important point earlier about how all the positions we've written off, all the openings we've written off, right? The computer would show that you actually could still play those if you had more skill, right? Anything we wrote off as like a 2-result position, put a computer in that seat and you'll find out that it was actually 3-result.
Right.
I mean, you'll lose for sure, like immediately. You know, any of these positions that we think of as like just comfortable, like squeezing, no risk, no danger, whatever, professional positions, right?
Yeah.
They may not be like completely winning, right? But they're positions where we feel like nothing can go wrong. We're just in the driver's seat. Well, the computer can beat you down at night. The computer can beat you in like a slightly cramped endgame.
buddy.
Yeah. On that note, it's helpful to analyze the opening actually in that way. So sometimes what I'll do is I think Eugene Perelstein does this as well. You kind of just spar against the computer. So you take a position that you want to play, and maybe you don't understand it from black, so you play it from white's side. You make your move. You hit space bar so that you don't look at what the engine is saying, so you don't see what the best moves or what the evaluation is, right? So you make your moves on the board. You hit space bar so the engine makes its move, and then within 3-4 moves, you're lost, right? You're just lost. So, and then it's like it can be pretty instructive how quickly things can go wrong.
Yeah. So what Jesse's always saying is, you know, we don't need to play variants. We don't need to this and that, right? And so for him, what the computer's opening up is, oh yeah, like you could raise your skills. You could play all these kinds of positions. You could play the Purist defense, right? Like you could play a knight. You could play the Purist defense, right? So Jesse's saying there's all this room and territory opened up in chess. And then what I would say is I also felt like there's a lot to learn from the computer engine, but the way I would leverage and try and learn from the computer engine is not 3+0. So I feel like if you play 3+0 at queen odds, basically you're losing because you're running out of time. Okay, maybe you look at your clock, you panic, you play a fast move, you hang a piece, but essentially it's really time.
No, because I
I
play a
think
lot of 3-0, David. I'll crush people 3-0, and I was, with the queen. With the queen, I lost a game without with the queen. Oh, buddy, I was honestly like when I heard that Elvis lost, I was like, that guy was drinking that day or something. That's not real. And then I did it this morning, dude. I lost games with my opponent didn't have a queen.
it's only because of running out of time.
No,
It's
no,
not
no, no,
because
no,
you
no, no,
can't
no.
handle the
Mm-mm.
position.
No. I want to just stress here. Let me just say this from my personal experience. Of course, I can lose on time. But
Yeah.
what's really happening is had positions that normally I would just have extreme comfort level with. I'm going to roll this person over. I'm like, oh, what do you have the queen? You're going to trade down. You're going to attack, right? And then all of a sudden, I ran up against this incredible resistance where then I would blow something. I'd lose a piece or something. And it's like, oh my God. And all of a sudden he mated me a couple times, bro. He mated me, dog. Oh
Okay.
man.
Well, here's what I found really interesting, where I think you could really learn the most. I played the computer some games at night odds with time controls like maybe 5+5 or maybe 10+3 or something like that, right? A time control where I'm not at all flagging. I can even think a little bit about some of my moves. And then the computer would play such incredible and fantastic ideas, right? And I really could I could look at the games afterwards and I could learn something from those games. And honestly, I think I could potentially play classical against the computer with the extra knight and maybe still lose or have a very competitive game. And that would give me something to really think about and study,
Okay.
right? Like I think that's where you can see stuff because I can tell you some of the amazing things that the computer did that were like very interesting, right? To me at like a chess level. I don't know, like when you play over a 3-0 game that you lost to the computer, is there something really interesting for you to study in it?
Well, I will say this. Whenever I go over, especially any kind of opening, and I look at it with the computer, it's generally eye-opening. I mean, that's where I experience the most eye-opening stuff. And then, of course, there's other positions too where, I'll study my game very deeply and the games I play, and then I'll turn the computer on at the very, very end, and it's like, oh my God, I didn't see that, Bose. So there's like, that's the way, I mean, to me, playing at odds is still not something like I'm intrinsically interested in. It's more an exercise in mind expansion of what 3600 means. I think that's totally what it means. Like before, I knew the machine was strong, but 3600 didn't mean anything to me. Now I know. Now I know what 3600 means and feels like,
Okay. I mean, I feel like I learned a lot from some of these games. I mean, one of the first things is the computer doesn't play opening theory, right? That's the first
Sure,
lesson.
yeah.
I'm sure the moves that are opening theory are, 1/100th of a pawn or 5/100th of a pawn better than the moves that the computer plays, right?
No. Why would that be the case without a queen or knight or?
I mean, okay, I see what you mean. But with just knight odds, when it would play white, it might play like b4 instead of e4 or something like that. I don't think b4 is the best move in that position, probably to it.
Maybe not e4, but I mean, I'm not sure about like the first moves, but against me, it would play like e4, c5, b3, I think like g6, h4 or stuff like this. Like, so it would do a lot of like early h4 and stuff. But so yeah, I feel like without a knight, like, open Sicilian is probably not going to be best.
It had a game against me, Kostya, where it played something like close Sicilian, right? Like e4, c5, knight c3, knight c6. One or two more pieces came out, and then it played g4 on move 4 or 5.
Yeah, it loves G4.
Just like weakening move, like weird, like, not keeping the pawns together, no f4, no h4, right? And like, I really think some of the moves it's playing are suboptimal to its to it, like if it weren't using contempt, right? If it weren't using contempt, if it were just doing objective evaluations, I think some of the moves that it plays in the opening, it thinks are not the best move. One game it played against me, e4, c5, bishop c4. I'm almost certain that bishop c4 on move 2, regardless of whether or not you have your knight, it's got to be somewhere between 1 and 10 hundredths of a pawn less good than knight c3 or some other move. Okay, but it did it anyway. And my point is, just by taking us out of opening theory, it reveals more of human weakness, right? Like we're immediately playing so much worse from moves 3 to 15 than we would if it played a recognizable system, right? Fedorowicz's contention that any professional player can draw at will with white, that was partly based on the fact that black was cooperating by playing opening theory. So the professional player knew at least 10 moves, if not 15 by heart, and knew that structure and had played it before, etc., right? This computer, it was like never giving me a structure I knew, almost never, occasionally. But like so often it was getting me into positions that I'd like never played before. It feels a little like Fisher random or something, right? But it's just exploring things. The pieces are starting on the same squares, but it played some weird, as I said, bishop c4 Sicilian against me, where it played like e4, bishop c4, queen e2, a3, bishop a2, and like weird stuff. And so I think so one lesson from it, very basic, is like if you get people out of opening theory, they're so much worse. Right? That was one piece of it. But then the other thing that was amazing was how it could seize like the tiniest little thing and always find some juice.
Juice, that's right, yeah.
Sometimes you're playing chess positions and you're like, this position's very dynamic. This position's very static, right? This position, time is important. This position, time doesn't matter so much. Time seems to like always matter with this beast. Like it always had something to do. It always poking here, poking there.
Yeah.
If you then there, and you don't have time to solidify this and solidify that, and multi-directional kind of stuff. It's always finding juice. It's always dynamic. And that was another really just amazing thing for me to see, the way it could always get the party started. We would never settle into something normal.
So one thing I also want to just say about it's really interesting. So just in terms of appreciating the strength of the computer and thinking about it a little bit. So I think when the computers first started playing chess, a lot of us, myself included, had the intuition that the computer's strength would eventually plateau, right? That it would just level out because there would be an upper limit of what you could do, right? Like, let's say you're playing Magnus, and the intuition would be like, yeah, maybe you beat it most of the time, Magnus most of the time, but you're not going to beat it more than 20 to 1. No way. You're not going to beat Magnus more than 21. And so in that way, you could say, well, it's going to plateau off. So when you look at the graph of Stockfish, okay, around 2008, it's around 3,000. Okay, which is amazing, but that's only 200 points better than Magnus. 2014, it's already 3,200. 3,400, it reaches in 2018. 3,500, 2020, and now it's almost 3,700, approaching 3,700. And the line, if you just push a line through all those dots, it's basically straight. So what that suggests to me is A, we have zero appreciation of what 3,700 or 3,600 means. And number two is I don't think it's surprisingly not plateauing out. The line is not turning into a plateau, which is stunning because you would say to yourself, oh, Bobs, how can you squeak out even more wins? How is it even possible? The game of chess is a draw. That's what they told me at school. Right? And no, it's somehow not true, dude. It's not some boring draw.
It'll be really interesting to see if it keeps going up, if the trend keeps and stays until 4,000. Because I felt like Engines got a big boost in the last couple of years because of the neural nets.
Yeah.
Alpha Zero, Leela Zero, and then Stockfish adding the neural network and so on.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that it's because it seems like there was a lot of improvement from like the AI. But it's interesting that it seems to be kind of similar to its scale of improvement already before that. But now I'm wondering how it will continue to improve, short of other technological like
Leaps.
yeah, I'm sure like when quantum computing arrives, then we'll reach
Well, I
even new
mean,
ventures.
from my perspective, I like, okay, so just I want to stress, like we should talk about technology, and I think it's clear that AI is just beginning. It's just beginning. So there's no reason to think it can't get more and more of a boost just from AI. But for me, the thing that's mathematically mind-boggling is once you start talking about 4,000, that means it could beat Magnus all the time, just like all the time. I mean, it's a whole level of beatdown that, yeah, it's kind of unfathomable. Because imagine you're white and you're just playing a position, and Magnus can hold so many positions that a lot of us would just fold over. Imagine some rook endgame, and no, this what 4,000 says is you're done, buddy. You're done. We don't care about your endgame skill anymore. You don't even count, dude. You don't
That
even
would
count.
also be interesting to have GMs play against the computer, like rook and three against rook and three, and see if
Right.
they can hold it.
Oh my God.
I have
That would
faith.
be disturbing to try out some endgames like that.
I have faith.
You have faith?
I have faith we could hold. I mean, if it like this, if it's simple enough, sure. If it's complicated, I'm sure. Like, draw an endgame, you can always lose if it's tricky. But if it's yeah.
Well, actually, one fun story on this is uh, David was doing commentary on the final and decisive round between Ding and and Gukesh. And this was, of course, the position where Ding blows it. And David's doing commentary, and he's like, okay, I'm really bored here. This is clearly going to be a draw, but, I'm here for the fans. So I'll play this against the computer to prove that it's totally drawn. And then, of course, Ding blew it instantly right after that while David was doing his little exercise.
Yeah.
Funny.
Yeah, I was sparring with somebody from chat actually at that point, I think, who wanted to, keep trying.
Yeah.
So we're sparring it out. I remember I sparred against an engine. This is a few years ago, so it wasn't as good, but I don't know how much it matters in a simplified endgame, right? But I was sparring this knight and 2 pawns against knight and 3 pawns, the defense side of it, right? Which is really tough. And it was really, 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 really brutal. Trying to defend. I remember I tried this knight ending for so long against the computer and couldn't really ever get consistent at defending it because the computer was so good.
Now, one thing that was fun was playing weaker bots growing up. I remember on ICC, I would play like some of the weaker bots, and that was cool because those felt like like Pokemon gym leaders, like stepping stones on your way to development. And once you can beat like the 1400 bot, you move on to the 1600 bot, and so on and so forth. And now actually we have these like human bots and different things. I think those are actually kind of cool. I was gonna suggest that we think about getting some of our own bots for like sparring and stuff.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that would be very cool if you could play a computer that's like at a lower level from a set position and just spar.
Well, one of the things that the Queen's Gambit
Great for training.
generation, I feel, taught us was we had a bunch of people coming into the dojo who had only played against bots because they were nervous about playing against people. So we had people coming to the dojo, more than one, who had never even played a human. They just played bots the whole time.
Yeah, very typical thing. I
Yeah.
I think it comes from video games because you often play like the tutorial and you play against bots in
right.
video games before playing against like real people on the internet. And I think that's like it's a good thing that people do that because it makes a lot of sense to kind of like practice. Whereas in chess, I always thought it makes a lot of sense. I feel like you should just play against people when you're first starting out.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, certainly if you can go to like an in-person place to play where you can talk with people, that's so much better than playing against a bot that won't really talk to you. But I think this idea of like odds, it opens up a lot of room for improvement and for renewing human versus computer relations in chess.
Well, actually, David,
Makes it so much more interesting.
since you're into it, let me just throw out a thought experiment then,
Yeah.
because this bothers me a little bit. But you've taken part in the Go world, and so I'm just going to tell you how I imagine it happens. Like, there's all kinds of handicaps: 1 stone, 2 stone, all this stuff. And I'm imagining if you went to a Go tournament and you were like a 3 stone player or whatever, and you go in and you're matched against somebody, then they're going to take away that person, somebody higher, they're going to take away some of that person's stones, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not taking away, it's that the weaker player gets to play extra stones
Fair
at the
enough,
beginning
yeah.
of the game, right? So
Right.
they start putting out stones. I've never been to a Go tournament.
Okay. But okay, here's my
I don't
thought
know for sure how that works.
Right.
But but when you play some games online, for example, or if I went to like a Go club 2 or 3 times in my life, people will give a handicap based on how strong they are.
Right. Okay. So just as a thought experiment, then, can you imagine then a tournament where instead of having all these different divisions, so for example, I played the tournaments I often play in, there's championship, premier, reserve, or whatever. They have all these different names, right? So instead of having that, and instead of having different prize funds, you could say, well, when you play this 1700, you got to give him your knight or something. I don't know, right? Is that a thing? It's hard for me to imagine, but you're into the odds. Do you like that idea?
I could imagine that. I mean, obviously you'd have to change how you calculate ratings and prizes and stuff like that, right? But that could potentially allow you to have lots of people playing together in the same section. Or if you're somewhere with less people and you're struggling to have enough people to put a tournament together, right, Jesse? Like, say you're in Santa Fe and you've got 20 people who might show up for your tournament. And one of them's a grandmaster and one of them's a master. And, 3 of them are A players. And you've got a couple people rated 1,000, etc., right? I mean, you don't want to make a 4-person section or a 2-person section, right? So you put everybody together. How could you make it more fun and interesting? Sure, odds. I could imagine you could do it.
Yeah.
You could have a formula like for 100 points you get white, for 200 points you get white and a pawn, for 400 points, knight, you get 2 pawns, 600 points a knight.
I don't like that idea. I mean, I think it's fun to do it as like an exhibition event, but I wouldn't attend a real tournament, like, because I think the fun of the tournament is just that it's like you get to see who the best player is. So that's the fun.
That's one kind of fun of a tournament. Yeah, it can also be fun to play in a tournament without winning the tournament.
Well, sure, whatever.
Why, David, do you have a sense why the tradition of odds, why we lost it and why Go got it?
Why did we lose it? I mean, like, obviously it was alive and well for a while, right? In chess. The greatest player of all time, Philidor, he spent his entire career playing at odds. He almost never played a game not at odds because he was so much ahead of his time, right?
Yeah.
I don't feel like we really lost the tradition, though. I mean, I still play odds occasionally. And I think lots of people do, like at clubs and stuff. Like, we definitely play with time odds and
time odds, yes, but piece or pawn odds, I mean, David's talked about doing it, but he's a weird dude. I have not wanted to do it, and I very rarely have. I don't think I've ever seen. No, I just haven't seen it. I've been around a long time. I have not seen people doing odds.
It's not super common. I don't know. I mean, I played with my nephew a couple weekends ago, and we played with queen odds. I mean, I'm not gonna play a real, he's just starting out. I'm not gonna play a full chess game.
I played a bunch of great games at odds this summer, Jesse. So not because we were preparing for this podcast or anything, right? It is a normal part of my life. I play at odds with my children when they occasionally play, but that's only, maybe I played my kids 4 times this summer, all at odds. But also at the chess club, I played a bunch of people at odds. So I went to a chess club every week and probably played 3 or 4 games at odds every week.
Okay, I got a theory. Let me float my theory about why we lost it. So in my historical understanding, we were doing this a lot up until really the 1870s, 1880s. And then it kind of starts fading. So in my head, the way this works out is around that time, this is the beginning of Steinitz doing his magazine and stuff, and they start publishing a lot of analysis. And one of the things that they start believing that they're discovering is they're doing a bunch of opening theory, and they start having strong opinions that certain moves lose. So not losing a pawn, like having a pawn taken away or a knight taken away, but just like an inaccuracy leading to like a lost position, or a position that's so bad that somebody's just going to crush you. And so then players at this time period start getting in their head that chess is a game of such of small inches that if you lose just a little bit, well, that's it, buddy, you're done. And I think that then gets confirmed in the that idea gets confirmed in the world championship matches. So if you look at, for example, the Alekhine Capablanca match, where they're repeating the exact same opening moves over and over again, it feels as if there's zero room for error and they're playing the absolutely best moves. What 4,000 ELO says is that's a bunch of hoes. No, you're fools. You have no idea what you're saying. But I think that was the idea that led us to lose the odds, because it's like, well, if some little inaccuracy in the Queen's Gambit declined is going to lead Capablanca to just be toast, then obviously we can't be playing odds. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, I obviously don't know the answer, Jesse, to your question. I don't know where odds went or why. But I'll give you another little theory that could possibly be it. And it's related to what you were pointing out about tournaments and sections of tournaments, right? What you guys were saying. Maybe because chess started splitting people up by groups, it stopped needing odds, right? Like players kind of stratified and segregated. So the top masters were only playing each other, or if they played others, it would be a huge simultaneous, right? And they would come in, they'd visit somewhere, they'd play everybody at once. But they didn't have time to sit one-on-one with Joe Schmo and play a game with him. Therefore, they didn't need to play at odds anymore, right? And so people would tend to play with people in their strength level. And because we were able to split up tournaments into sections like that, then we didn't need odds anymore.
Okay, yeah. The other thing that crosses my mind here, too, is what I really want to stress is back in the day, we wouldn't do like piece or pawn odds or anything, but we would do time odds all the time. And what's important actually to understand about that technologically is back in the day, you'd have these clocks and they were hand turned. So it was very easy to set it to like 5-1 or 5-3. And that was a great way, actually. But now, when I'm reflecting on it with the online era, I've never seen any online platform, Chess.com, Lichess, or ICC, where you were able to set the time, so it would be time odds. I've never even seen that. So we actually lost the time odds tradition that we used to have.
I mean, definitely, if you have admin access, you can do that, right? Like you can spoof a match command with time odds.
I guess I've never seen anybody do it though. Right?
I think you could do it on ICC when you created a game. You just like put your name, the amount of time you have, the other person's name, the amount of time they have. I remember that also being possible on there.
Okay. But I mean, of course, we never did that. That was just like kind of for fun and for ego. Like at the U.S. Junior closed, some dude would be like, "I can take you down 5-1," and if he did, it was like hilarious, and everybody's laughing at him. But that was something we would do, like as an ego trip kind of thing, instead of Yeah. Also, like you said, David, you're playing somebody who's not that good. Sure, you'd do something like 5-1 or 5 minutes 30 seconds, and that would be like a fun, exhilarating thing to do.
Yeah. But I find it much more fun to play, without a piece than to play with a few seconds and just beat somebody down without thinking.
Got it. I'm just trying to say how it's evolved.
To me, one of the fundamental things in a chess game is not knowing if you're going to win or lose the game. I've said this many times on streams. So those who watch our streams, apologies for repeating this, but it bears repeating right here. I think it's an essential element of chess, this tension of not knowing the result as you're going to play. This is what can make playing somebody 1,000 points lower than you uninteresting, and what eventually made playing against computer engines uninteresting. You knew you were going to lose, right? Like when you're calculating a combination during a chess game, you're wondering if it works or not, right? You're trying to work it out. Does this work? Does it not? Can I get away with this? Is there that point at the end, right? When you're playing an engine, like why bother? You know it doesn't work, right? You know you don't have some 15 move combination to checkmate them or whatever, or to win a pawn. You know it doesn't work. So why even calculate it? So, and sometimes you'll see weaker players will play against you that way, right? They won't even look at the critical continuations because they assume that you looked at it and it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
With the computer, it's even more absolute. Why even try to win, right? And then the interest falls out of the game.
Uh-huh.
I think chess is interesting when you don't know if you're going to win or lose. And you can bring that back with odds, right?
Okay.
Like I was playing some players like 1,500-ish level in Hawaii at piece odds, and I didn't know if I was going to win or lose the game.
Right.
And it was
No, I
really
think
exciting.
David makes an important point there. When I was playing the Leela Queen odds, I was looking for tactics because I realized tactics might work in this position. I have an extra queen. So I started to look for tactics again.
Yeah. But when you play, you obviously haven't played a computer even in a long time. But if you did, do you look for mistakes from?
No, normally, or when I play the computer on occasion, it's no. I just try to play very safe, and I try not to blunder, and then I just try to flag it or them or whatever it may
It's
be.
different than when you normally play chess, right? It's a different kind of experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there is still much progress for us to be made. There's clearly a gap. I was just thinking, like, how interesting it must be the difference between people who know about chess engines versus the chess players who, rested peacefully without knowing about chess engines and how they might see the game. It's like we've been exposed to a new god, essentially,
Right.
that they didn't know about, and it'd be
They wondered
interesting
about
to
it, right? People always
they
wondered,
did, right?
what would it be like if God came down to Earth and played chess?
Yeah, they have thought about it for sure.
I think
They had no idea, and now you know.
one of the amazing things too is like back in the day, you would look at an annotated game between two strong GMs, even one that was very deeply researched by the Soviets and stuff, and they would identify a couple moments where somebody made a mistake. Right? And that was after deep research forever. And for them, that was the conclusion, that they had found out the truth of the position. And now you take that same analysis and you run it through the engine like, wow, you're totally wrong. You're not even close. You're not even close. So it's like this huge opening of both possibility and also humility. The old gods are dead. The old heroes are dead.
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, it's fascinating when they get stuff right. It's like a lot of the good chunk of the analysis is correct in many cases, and then that's always like wildly impressive. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of cool.
Jesse, do you think that, and Jesse and Kostya, do you think that you could win a match at night odds against this computer bot with classical time controls?
Well, I will say this. When I played the queen odds at 3-0, I was certain I would just crush it. Now, I did win by +1, but I was like, I'm not going to lose a game. I'm not going to lose a game. Give me a break. I got a queen, boss. I got a queen, buddy. So, like, if you tell me that thing with a knight, like, my first instinct is, yeah, of course I'm going to win. But now with that experience with the queen, it's like I'm traumatized. I'm traumatized. So you start playing it, and you're like, I can't roll it over, in these positions that you were like, I'm just completely winning. And so there's the interesting psychological thing that happens at the human level too when you're playing the thing, because you're just like, you get that attitude that you talked about, David, where you're like, no bother, there's no way I'm going to go down this road. It's obviously not going to work. And then you start getting that in your head, and you're just like, oh, I don't know. You got to trust at some level, right? You got to trust your moves, especially when you're attacking, right? You'd be like, this has got to be a winning attack. And then the thing is so hard to beat when you're on the attack. It's like, oh, I can't bust through.
Yeah, you just got to trade down. I think I could win with white, but with black, I'm not sure. So I think it just comes down to one move, basically.
So you think it's very, very close?
I somehow with white, it just feels a lot easier psychologically than with black.
So, David, tell us about your match. You said you played a 10-0 match with night odds?
I mean, I've played night odds against it on a few different occasions.
Uh-huh.
Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yeah, it looks like about 16 games. So they weren't all on the same day, and I don't think they were all the same time control. Sometimes it was 5 minute, sometimes maybe 10. But what stands out to me is that I could look at these games and learn something from them. They are studyable.
Yeah.
The couple queen odds games I played, Jesse, I don't feel like I would ever study them to learn something from them.
Right. Okay.
Right? And I played slower than you guys, but 3-0, I would just flag. I'm not interested. I flag against humans up a queen in 3-0 as well. Like I've had that experience hundreds of times. I just flag. Fine. But give me a 2-second increment and the extra queen. Obviously, I would probably beat a human. But yeah, I don't think there's a lot to learn from the couple queen odds games that I tried. But these night odd games, I really think there'd be a lot for me to learn from them. Type of mistakes I made, the type of moves it played to come up with pressure again and again, trying to go back to some of the moments where I wasn't sure what to do and trying to find a different move instead. I really think that I could have learned a lot from it. And I wonder if I could beat it in classical, or if even in classical, I would just have a lot to learn from how it keeps tension, avoids trades, finds ways to put pressure.
I think Leela or Larry Kaufman or someone should sponsor a match where the three of us play against the engine in like classical, and we can discuss moves. We get night odds or something, and see if we can defeat it.
I bet together we would win.
Think so?
Yeah, because one of the main problems with humans is like every now and then you have a little blindness that costs you something. Then you have to deal with like the fallout of that, right?
Yeah.
And that really hurts. But like covering each other's blindnesses at classical time controls, I'm almost certain we would win.
I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
The challenge has been set.
The challenge has been set.
The team at Leela Zero wants to connect.
I think at classical there's like a chance we could win solo against the engine.
Maybe we could win solo. Yeah.
Chance. I mean, Jesse, do you think that anyone could beat you at night odds in classical? Have you ever wondered if Magnus or
no?
Gary,
My assumption would be no, Magnus, you're done. No way. Yeah. But now this is what I mean by challenging my assumptions. It completely changes everything, because before I would hear like something like a rating of 3,400, but I never felt it, right? So for example, maybe it's a little bit like you've been wrestling with kindergartners all your life, and then all of a sudden you're wrestling with somebody who can deadlift 500 pounds, and then you feel it for the first time. Like you might have heard of somebody who could lift that kind of weight, but then you feel it, and you're like, oh, damn, that's another level, Bose. That's a whole nother thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I will just put it out there, Jesse. I think you would find it more interesting to play some night odds games with a bit more time. And you'll feel the thing's power in another way.
Okay, yeah.
I felt it much more with more time to appreciate the force, shall we say, right? Like, like to be like, oh, I've got some time on the clock to think about it, but this dude is posing me some serious questions.
Yeah.
And, I fought like heck, and I've played over most of those games afterwards to study stuff from them, try and find some of the moments. And, yeah, it was intense. Another thing is a lot of the games, the computer would win back like one pawn by the time we got to the end game, but have some like my position's a little bit awkward.
Yeah.
And oh my God, it's hard to play an end game with a piece against a pawn, but your position's awkward and your pieces just aren't working.
Right. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's like the phases of struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really comes up with like fresh ways to positionally bind you. Like it
Yeah.
really, it's like
Yeah.
yikes.
Yeah, lots of creative binds for
Yeah,
sure.
for sure. Yeah, that's funny.
All right, that was great, you guys. We're going to experiment more with it. I think also just the interesting question of how strong these things can get. Will it continue in this direct line, which doesn't seem to be slowing down at all? It's a huge question for me. Is it really possible to continue growing? Right? How there has to be a limit at some point.
There has
to
to be a
be.
limit
There
at
has
some
to
point,
be, dude.
Like
Yeah.
ultimately, something could see like every possibility. It could just calculate that far ahead. There has to be some limit. The question, I guess, is sort of how far is the limit away now, right? Like how close is this to God? Because you could have played a computer engine 2 years ago and thought like, yeah, that's how God would play if they came down
Right.
from the sky. It's impossible. Like I'm just defeated in every direction. Can't do anything. But then, an engine from 2 years in the future would have come back and demonstrated that was not yet the case.
Right. Yeah.
So how close are we getting to it? I wonder.
Okay, well, we
Alrighty.
will see. That was a great talk. I'll see you guys soon.
Thanks for listening.
Cheers.